Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Jen, and I really want to thank you for being here with me today. So I have a question for you. How would you like to free yourself from your food struggles once and for all? In just a moment, I'm going to share these steps with you. But before we do that, I'd also like to share a little bit more about myself, both as a woman who understands food and body struggles, and also as a psychologist who has helped hundreds of women transform their relationship with food and their body to begin creating the life they really want to be living. I am blessed and grateful to be here, and I feel very lucky to have the life that I do today. My health being one of the top things that I'm grateful for. My profession as a psychologist, loving relationships, a beautiful partnership, a 12-year-old in my life that I get to teach about emotions and loving her body, my service work in Africa, just to name a few of the blessings. But it wasn't always like this. I too, like many of you listening, went through my own dark night of the soul, where I felt so lost and out of control. But before I go there, I should tell you a little bit more about my background. So anyone who knows me knows I love food and the whole experience of eating. I like to try new foods, I like to go to new restaurants, I like anything spicy, ethnic food. I even like to watch movies about food. Like Water for Chocolate is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's both about food and love. And much of this love of food comes from my own wonderful Italian background. So my last name is Nardozzi. And while I don't have as much time right now to go into lots of depth about this, let's just suffice it to say that homemade sauce and meatballs was a religion in my house on Sundays. There was definitely an early connection made between food, eating with gusto, love, relationships, and family for me. Yet at the same time, messages of dieting, monitoring, weight loss also dotted my own childhood terrain. I think I was particularly sensitive to these societal messages about weight and also seeing some of my own family members struggle with food and weight, including my own wonderful, beautiful mother. I have the most amazing mom. We call her Rose, and everyone loves my mom. So here she was preparing these wonderful homemade Italian meals night after night, while simultaneously always on a diet and trying to lose weight. I always loved her curves and how she felt when she gave me a hug, which happened frequently and often, but she didn't seem to love her curves. And this was a powerful message growing up, even though she never once said something disparaging about my body or anybody else's body for that matter. So my own weight preoccupation and food monitoring started at a pretty early age. So between this and some perfectionistic tendencies, the stage was set. But this all took a turn for the worse when I went through my own devastating heartbreak. Newly married, and my marriage was falling apart almost immediately as my husband at the time struggled with his own demons of addiction. I finally really understood what they meant when they said your heart felt like it was breaking, because this is exactly how I felt. Here was the man I adored, and I felt like I was living with a stranger. And as I tried to save him, I nearly lost myself in the process. I can remember being so beyond anxious during that time and embarrassed that I was in this situation and had no idea how to cope with it. I think this is when I started to focus again on being healthy, which AKA meant losing weight, and at the same time having these nightly ice cream fests. My life felt more out of control than ever. And I can remember eating these McDonald's fudge sundaes with extra nuts night after night on my couch. I was feeling devastated, scared, ashamed, alone. And I understood on a very deep and real level why people turn to food and other substances and maladaptive coping behaviors. Because when you feel this deep sense of loss and pain, you will do just about anything to not feel like this. And I have a feeling many of you who are listening to this can relate to this. Maybe a time in your own life that was more painful than you thought was humanly imaginable. But all of this was a serious wake-up call for me. I knew I had to get help or this story was not going to end very good for me. I was going to get more depressed, my eating likely was going to get more out of control, and at some point, if I didn't really take on my health, that I was going to get ill. Maybe not now, but at some point in the not so distant future. And this is when I realized that I had to start focusing on me, mind, body, spirit, that I was the only person that I could save. So I put a team of amazing healers and a small group of loving friends around me who really understood what I was going through. They began to guide me from the darkness into the light. I began working with practitioners around my food in a new way, with the idea that food is the key to my vitality and aliveness. And I realized that without this guidance and this network of love, I would likely not be where I am today. And I'm truly grateful for those people who made such a difference for me when I needed it the most. I'm also happy to report that my former husband also found his way into sobriety and health, and that today there's a lot of love between us, and he's doing what he is meant to do with his life. And my mom, well, she sometimes still goes back to her dieting. I think she's learned to love her curves a little bit more and herself a little bit more. She still cooks every night for my dad. And Rose still asks me when I go home to visit, "So Jen, what do you want me to make you to eat?" And I will tell you, I still always love that question from her.